Hello and welcome to the National Qigong Association's QiTalks. Today is May 12th, 2016, and I'm your host, Vicki Delajoyo. Well, I'd like to welcome our regular listeners and also those of you who may be joining us for the very first time. I know a few names were coming in that I don't recognize. We love that you've chosen to spend some time with us this evening here on QiTalks. I know that we all have a lot of choices of what we do at this time of day, and the fact that you're here is just a beautiful thing. Really very, very happy that you're joining us and part of this community this evening. In a few moments, I'm going to be introducing this evening's guest, Dr. Ted Sibbick. He's Doctor of Chinese Medicine, a Taoist priest, internationally recognized doctor, and teacher of medical Qigong therapy and naturopathy. But before I do, let me give you a little bit of context for any of you who are new to QiTalks and tell you how you can participate in this evening's session. QiTalks is a monthly teleclass that's sponsored by the National Qigong Association, which is a member organization that provides information, resources, networking, community building for both Qigong professionals as well as the general population. We sponsor national and regional as well as local conferences and events, including regional events across the United States. In fact, many of you may have participated recently in one of our events across the country for World Tai Chi Qigong Day, which was on April 30th, and love to hear from you if you did have a chance to connect with people in the community for that day. QiTalks is an ongoing series of virtual classes, so it's free to you and to the general public as part of our goal to educate people about the benefits of practicing Qigong. Generally what happens with these calls is they're part interview, they're part audience participation, so I'm going to ask you to please plan to stay on for the whole call. It's an hour, so we're going to be going till 6:30 West Coast time, 9:30 East Coast time, and wherever you are in between, you can do your calculations. And we're going to be opening up for Q&A a little bit later. And to entice you to stay on, both Ted and I have some offers for you that we can tell you about in a little while. As you have heard, as you know, your telephone is muted at the moment, so that protects the sound quality of the call. But in a little while, we're going to be inviting you to bring in your questions, your experiences, any personal observations you have, general comments, and just join us in this conversation, because one of the awesome qualities, I think, of the NQA is it's really a community-based organization. So your voice is an instrumental part of, in my opinion, it's what makes QiTalks work as well as it does. It's certainly what makes this community work as well as it does. So anyway, let me tell you some of the ways that you can participate. First is, if while we're talking you have a question or a comment that you'd like to offer, let us know by pressing *6 on your phone. When you do, your name pops up on a queue that I can see here on my computer, because I'm monitoring this call on the computer. And then I'll be able to unmute you when we get to the Q&A part of the session in a little while. But I want to be really clear, you don't have to wait till Q&A to go ahead and press *6, because when you do, you'll be put in a first-come, first-served line of people who want to speak. And just go ahead and press *6 anytime. The second way to participate in this conversation this evening is to send an email to QiTalks, and that's QiTalks. I know Qi can be spelled many different ways, but we're doing QiTalks at nqa.org. And I'll be on the lookout for your email. So if you're shy or you don't really want to speak, or especially if you don't want to have your name acknowledged, do mention that in the email. I'll ask your question for you. I'll name you if you don't say that you don't want to be, and I won't if you do. So connect with us, please. Another thing that you could do is you can also post comments on our Facebook page. The board of director member and founder of Embrace the Moon School in Seattle is going to be monitoring your comments, Kim Ivy, and we're going to be looking for your posts as we go along. It's a great way to share with the larger community, and you can, if you are a Facebooker already especially, and it's facebook.com /national.qigong, QIGONG.association. Whatever you choose to do, whether it's you're wanting to speak on the phone, whether you're wanting to send an email, whether you want to say something on the Facebook page, please do participate. We're all here. We've got a really sizable group here this evening, and so I would love to hear from you in any way that you'd like. And I think really when you participate, you bring in an observation or a question. It generally tends to take our discussion to a whole new level, and it's also a great way to connect personally with our guests. Speaking of whom, I'd like to now introduce our guest speaker tonight, Dr. Ted Sibbick. Dr. Sibbick's the founder of Formless Taoism, which is a sect directed from his 2 near-death experiences and crossing over, resulting into unique insights into the spiritual world. Combining these insights while ministering to mental health professionals for 20 years allowed him to formulate a new paradigm in mind and spirituality. Ted is a chaplain for UPMC hospitals in the Pittsburgh area and lectures around the world to hospitals, corporations, private institutions, and government agencies. He's going to be offering a special professional track at our conference this summer, at the NQA conference this summer in New Jersey, and he's joined us this evening to give us a quick preview. I mean, in an hour, we're only going to be able to touch a little bit on the material he's going to be presenting in more depth this summer. So welcome, Ted. I'm so glad you're here. It's a delight.
I'm so happy to be here.
I remember hosting you.
To this.
Yeah, me too. And I remember hosting you a wonderful QiTalks that you gave back in 2014. So I'm so happy that you're back to share more of your wisdom and give us a little bit of a sample of what you're going to be addressing at the conference this summer.
Yes, I'm really excited about that, and we have some really, really interesting information, state-of-the-art, cutting-edge science that also kind of like supports and actually endorses a lot of Taoist thought and a lot of Chinese medicine. So I'm going to be marrying the 2 worlds so that everybody can speak a symbiotic language here.
So when you say the 2 worlds, you said Taoist thought and Chinese medicine, but you're also speaking about Western modalities, aren't you?
Correct. Yeah. The whole Western medicine allopathic world and its research. And we're going to talk about that in depth so that the participants in the class can actually start to, engage in dialogue, not only with their patients or their clients, but also other health professionals across the board, whether it be medical doctors, physical therapists, nutritionists, chiropractors, acupuncturists, whatever. So that's really what we're trying to do, is to create a community, and doing so by having a language that we can all talk in.
Well, I think this is brilliant and integrative in a way that it's just very exciting, leading edge types of thinking. And I know that your title for this evening is 3 Dantians, Chong Vessel, and Vagus Nerve, Postnatal Qi and Gut Enteric Nervous System, which is already a very integrative title, right? Where you're integrating Eastern and Western modalities, and it's a very vast title too. So,
yeah.
It sounds huge.
It's a small book. I realize that.
You're an ambitious guy, but what would you say is your underlying message here when you specifically in this title? I'm interested. The 3 Dantians, Chong Vessel, Vagus Nerve, Postnatal Qi, Enteric Nervous System. What is the underlying message that you're looking at? What's the thread?
The underlying message is the latest research that's coming out of NIH and various other organizations that are doing work on the microbiome, the gut, the enteric nervous system, all of those things. It's really what the Taoists called the lower Dantian, or the root chakra, and whether it's a Buddhist system, which is the chakra system, or the Dantians, which is a Taoist system, the research that's supporting those kinds of thinking that go back 5,000 to 7,000 years ago are being proven. And so there's a wonderful opportunity here for all of us to put our heads together, put our wisdom, put our knowledge together, and basically begin to work towards this goal of unifying a kind of like a unified theorem of how the human body really works, and more importantly, how it heals and how you can live in a healthy longevity and keep yourself in a vibrant state of mind and health until the end of days. And that's my goal, is to show that these are not different, but actually very
I'm chuckling just because, like I said, you're an ambitious person. I mean, this is huge, what you're claiming, and it also feels very doable, right? It sounds like it's something. It's where we are, right, at this point with these
where
arts.
we are is in humanity. And I think we have open enough minds right now at this point in time to hear the message. Now, there's going to be a few people who throw stones. That's fine. But I think for the majority of people that are going to be coming to the NQA and the people who do this kind of research, what I'm trying to do is have a dialogue with those folks, know that they're not alone, and basically start to develop some common language so that we all can start talking about this and contributing to this, and also helping enormous amounts of people in ways that we never could before.
Excellent. So for people who are on the call and they're new or they're beginning learners for Chinese medicine concepts, and I believe you've worked with both traditional and classic Chinese medicine, what is it that we need to know to understand the three dantians, the Chong Vessel, and postnatal Qi? What are some of the things?
Well,
give us a little bit of foundational work for those of us who may not have done a lot of work as practitioners, for example.
Sure. Well, we're finding out that the actual brain is ruled by the gut, and about 80% of your immune system really takes place in your intestines. So if you have a healthy gut, a lower dantian, you are going to have a healthier mind. And the interesting thing that I chuckle every time I think about this, the lowest life form, which was bacterium, which we tried to eradicate because we thought it was evil, is now the thing that is actually driving health. And all the latest research supports the fact that if we learn to work with our bacteria, in other words, just everybody get along, in fact we are going to be much healthier, and our minds are going to be much healthier, our brains are going to be much healthier, and our emotions, which is the middle dantian, is going to be much healthier because it actually is one of the controlling factors in serotonin and dopamine production. So we're now getting into mental health, we're also getting into states of mind, mood, and we're also getting into how does one stay in a healthy framework of mind and body. But it's starting to look like that lower dantian, where Qigong practitioners always know that we root into that lower dantian every time we're done practicing. This is why. Because it's controlling so much in the human body. And I just get so excited when I start to think about this, because we've always looked for a link, and we've looked through pharmaceutical drugs, and we've looked through various therapies, and here it is, lowly bacteria in our bodies that are running the show. One of the first things on the planet.
And so like the lower dantian is kind of the bowl, right, that holds this. And then talk about the other two dantians and how are you relating them to, say, Chong Vessel, vagus nerve, whatever, or yeah.
The middle dantian is really, some people in heart math and some people in coherent breathing and these various things that are out there really now talking about the electromagnetic field that actually comes out from the heart. Yes. And the middle dantian was exactly that. But more importantly, it is how the lower dantian communicates with that middle dantian that actually stabilizes the entire microbiome. In other words, that electromagnetic field that is coming out of the middle dantian works.
And let me just interrupt you for a second, Ted. When you talk about that, I think in heart math, that's when they actually measure the electromagnetic field coming off of different energy centers, that the heart is the strongest. Is that correct?
It is. It's actually even stronger than the brain.
Yes, that it's the most what would I say, expansive as a field of the entire body. As a field,
its Hertz level exceeds the brain by almost 2.
Yes.
So it's a very powerful, and when we say in studies of it's just studies of enlightenment or whatever, Buddhist, Taoist, whatever you're doing, is when you open your heart or when you lead with the heart, that means your electromagnetic field is actually stable and healthy. And in fact, when you lead that way, you influence others.
Yes.
And it's an amazing scientific almost fact now. There's some people that are still debating this, but a lot of people are debating, string theory too in physics. But the idea is that, all of these things are coming around, that people are becoming more aware of them. And this is where it gets interesting, because now people are starting to ask good questions. Like my teacher will always say, he says, ask a good question. He says it's not about the answers. It's about the good questions. And so this is what I'm trying to do, is stimulate good questions. Now, the upper dantian, that's the brain, but we're finding that the brain really is reflective of the gut. And so when we talk about that upper dantian, it's also something that's really transpiring out there, and there's a lymphatic system that we've just discovered in the brain that links to the other lymph systems in the body. And we never knew about this, but they're thinking that this lymph system may be one of the reasons why somebody has a healthy brain, or someone develops brain tumors, or someone develops something wrong with their brain, because that lymph system is like the other lymph systems that is supposed to allow, let's say, things that are detrimental to the brain's cellular neurological development. It's supposed to cleanse that and drain that. And if it's blocked, it can't. So in Chinese medicine and acupuncture and so forth, we always talk about blockages. We always talk about these things that cause a damming effect.
Right, that stagnation is basically the root of everything, every disease.
Exactly. And the lymph, as you know, is an offshoot of the blood system. So the blood, which holds the qi and holds the shen, if that's blocked in the brain, then it can't communicate with the lower dantian. So, the world is about communication, and especially in the human body. And communication becomes very important, and qi is that communicator. Qi is that thing that allows the human body to communicate. So when the qi is flowing between the three dantians, or the enteric nervous system, or you can talk about the heart, or you can talk about the lymphatic, it's actually all been controlled by the perivagal nerve. And that perivagal nerve...
Let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay.
So how does that... Tell us a little bit about the anatomy of how that works.
Well, the perivagal nerve extends from the brain down through the whole way through the body, actually. And it occurred to me that, in fact, when we started to do more research, and if you look at pictures of the perivagal nerve, it goes into every organ. It's almost like a spine, okay? And it goes in and it touches every organ, and that always made me very curious, very curious. So almost like a transparency, I placed the perivagal over top, and lo and behold, it actually mimicked the kidney channel. Now, a lot of people say that the Chong Vessel can be accessed through the kidney points. And when you look at the fact that the kidneys control fear in Chinese medicine, and it's kind of like a braking system, the perivagal. So when the brakes are on, you're fine. You're calm, cool, collected. You're a little cucumber. But as soon as the brakes let off, you start to have anxiety and panic attacks, and you can't remember the answer to the test question, and then it's fight or flight. So it's interesting that the kidneys, which have always been kind of like equated to a flower, where in fact the kidneys were the roots, the spine was actually the stalk, and the bottom part of the brain, the reptilian brain, was actually the flower. When you look at that, it's like, yes, and it's also tracing exactly the perivagal nervous system. Now, we're going to get into this in a lot of detail, and I'm going to talk enormously about how this ties into all the organs, why Dao Yin or Qigong is really, and what it's really doing to the perivagal nervous system, which communicates to the enteric nervous system, the gut, the lower dantian, and then how that affects the brain, and then how that affects your mind. And we're going to define all of these things and basically teach in a very Cliff Note version, because I could do this a whole week. And
Sure.
I mean, when I teach my doctors of medical Qigong, this is 6 months of training. Okay, just to give you an idea where we're going with the amount of information.
Well, even that doesn't sound like enough. Like I said, this is vast. What you're doing is vast.
It's huge. It's absolutely huge, and I've been researching this for over 10 years now, and putting this together and making my own little epiphanies and so forth.
So I've got to ask you, what inspired you to go down this track originally?
I'm infinitely curious. I have a passion for the esoteric. I have a passion for linking very esoteric types of pieces of information. And I knew that the Chinese were enormously gifted in their insights. And I knew that there had to be another way to explain it, because I lecture so much and I teach in so many acupuncture schools and medical schools and things like that, and language always became the barrier. And I thought, if I could just get a parallel language where I could talk to everyone and get everybody on board, it's like if we would just speak the same language, then we could work together rather than all working separately and bumping into each other once in a while.
So you're talking about being a communicator the way the vagus nerve, the paravagal, right? You're talking, from one level of understanding to another.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, and that's it. I mean, that's communication. That is in communication. So what we're trying to do externally, we're also doing internally. And this is the beauty of it. It's the yin and the yang. It's the polarities. It's all the same stuff. It's all about communication, and that's why I call Qi the great communicator. Because all we're trying to do is communicate. And we're trying to, through that communication, come to understanding, and through understanding come to peace. Now, if you have a peaceful kind of balance within your body, you've got health. You are the immortal. You are that person that basically is optimal in form and function. And this is where we're going to go and have great discoveries. Because, when we start to reduce the stress, we can think so much better, whether it be stress on body or stress on mind or stress on spirit. And that's what the three dantians are. And when we start to do this, and more people begin to see this as a viable option, I think that we're going to, it's a great lineage to leave behind for me. I mean, that's what I want to do. I just want people to begin to talk again about this and not be so separate.
It's wonderful. So you're really, what's inspiring you is really a unifying, a unifying motivation. That you want to unify the communication both within the body and then among different peoples and their different paradigms and how they treat their health. Exactly.
Yeah. Because when I teach classes, I have so many psychiatrists and psychologists and, medical doctors and things like that coming in. They're hungry for this. It's a third of my class that's coming in that's like this. And, I realize that there is obviously a need out there. And it's not everyone, of course.
Well, this is great, because this actually was what my next question was going to be, which is basically wanting to know what kind of responses you get from other people who are in, other healing professions, and what kind of responses are you getting? And it sounds like people are, it's part of what's moving you to go forward, is that you're getting a tremendous amount of interest.
Well, their eyes go big and their jaw drops, because this is the unifying principle and concept that they've been looking for. Most of everyone that I know, I haven't met one physician or doctor that has come to my classes who doesn't have a good heart. I mean, they really lead with their heart, and that's why they're seeking.
Well, that's why they're drawn to you, sure.
And so, when they seek, they're looking for something better than pharmaceuticals or even supplements,
Yes.
And so they're looking for something, because intuitively they know there's something else that they're missing. And this may be it. I don't know. 50 years from now, we'll maybe have a better idea. But right now, this is really exciting, and it's really going to answer a lot of questions for a lot of groups of people.
So what are some of the biggest challenges you face, both as a teacher of this system and this developing, what would we call it, modality, and also as a medical practitioner yourself? Where do you hit the snags?
People that have closed minds and that they would rather speak rather than listen. They would rather rely on an old paradigm because it's safe, and anything new creates a fear statement in their mind.
Yes.
And this kind of thinking obviously is very hard to break in any facet, especially anything that regards health and well-being, whether that be mental health, physical health, or spiritual health. And people want to hold on to their old paradigms, where in my mind, I want to break down those old paradigms, and I want to ask better questions. And so, I'm constantly challenging myself and challenging how I say things and how I think of things. And in that way, I'm able to see things more brightly. And so when I get with someone who's very closed-minded, it's kind of like I realize now that it's kind of like until you're willing to open your mind or stop pouring water into the cup that's full, it's not going to do any good no matter what words I use. So that's my greatest challenge. But luckily, I get that every once in a while, and that's fine because that keeps me sharp.
Yes. I know that I know that we don't have tons of time here, and you're just we're just barely scratching the surface of this information. But if people want to get in touch with you and find out more about your work or more about what you're going to be doing at the conference this summer, tell us what they can do to connect with you.
Well, they can always go to my web pages, go to my Facebook page. A lot of times I put things out there. They can go to my web page, read some of the articles. I have some blog articles. I have some YouTube videos, different things like that I'm trying to do. Predominantly I teach, and that's mostly what I do for people that come here. I'm just teaching an awful lot. And yes. I love that. I enjoy it. And so I don't spend so much time on social media and writing anymore. I'm mostly speaking to groups and to people. But they can always drop me an email. That's best because then I can respond at my leisure. And I try to get back to everybody within, a prompt period of time. But people write to me from all over the world, asking different things and so forth. And I try to get back to people because people were writing and because they're seeking. And yes. But sometimes it does get a little overwhelming sometimes. Yes. There's only one of me.
Yes. Well, I see that a question has come up, so I'm going to go ahead and bring in our friend here, Kim Ivy. Let me see if I can unmute you. There it goes. Are you there, Kim?
There okay. You are. You unmuted me, muted me, and then unmuted
Actually,
me.
it's the system that did that. So anyway, hi. Welcome.
So hi, Vicki. Hi, Ted. How are you?
Hi there.
Thanks. Thanks for being here. Hey, I've got two questions. One, and they may seem different, or they may somehow, you may be able to link them together. I think a lot of us who teach right now, even just regular Qigong classes, are finding a lot more Western medicine practitioners are very, very interested. They're still really, really needing, and I respect their need for this whole evidence base. So when you are making the associations that you are making, how are you addressing the Western practitioners, doctors, et cetera, need for evidence? That's one question. And then my other question is, Vicki had mentioned that you had 2 near-death experiences. And so I'm actually wondering how those experiences have played a role in your evolution. So 2 very different questions, but there you go.
Okay. Well, thank you for that.
Yep.
It's really interesting. The hottest topic right now in healthcare is the enteric nervous system and what they call the microbiome. Now, when you look at the microbiome, it has like 8 million genes.
Would you please define the microbiome for those?
The microbiome is the actual bacterium that exists in the enteric nervous system. Now, the enteric nervous system rivals the central nervous system. There's more neurological conductivity that's actually going on in your gut than the entire spine in itself. And
wow,
so
I never heard that.
When nature builds something that intricate, complex, and more importantly, maintains it and keeps it, there has to be a huge reason for that expenditure. And so we've overlooked this for so long. But when we started to realize that it's really rolling the show, And I'm going to get into this a lot more. The microbiome is about the specific kinds of bacteria that do different jobs, and this is what National Institutes of Health is researching right now. The specific types of bacteria, what they do, how they balance things, how they selectively create the things that they need in a cascade of, protein synthesis and things like that, so that, in fact, things are actually being created by the needs of the gut. And this is crazy stuff. And this is like all being done by U.S.-based interested parties at the NIH. And, of course, I think some of this is going to be an interest in developing some medicines, too, some pharmaceuticals out of all of this. But, it is huge. And, and a lot of people don't realize that even when we start out, natural childbirth actually begins the whole strains of bacteria in our entire body. So there's 42 strains of bacteria that actually start out in the birth canal. So when we start to do this, we introduce our immune system. Now, how many autoimmune diseases do you know out there? It keeps growing exponentially. The key to the immune system is the microbiome and the enteric nervous system and their communication. And so hopefully that answers the first question pretty well?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep,
Okay.
I think so.
The second question, I don't know if I can answer. It's a tough one. So if you could you repeat it for me, please, for us and the listeners?
It was Kim was asking about your two near-death experiences and how that might be related to the work that you're doing. Is that right, Kim?
It was. I was just. It was interesting to me how that might have started him or propelled him to his work. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I understand my destiny. I'll just make that statement. I understand what I'm supposed to do, and I'm not done. I have a lot more to do. And this concept of communication is what is vastly important to me. I also realize that life is so precious. And when the biggest thing that any near-death experience will teach you is that you got to get busy. You got to get busy enjoying life. You got to get busy being productive in life, and you got to get busy leaving a lineage. And by that, I mean that could be children, but that could also be, if you don't have children, leaving something behind for future generations. And this is what I'm driven to do. And I do not have children, so obviously my energies are focused on leaving behind something that can be hopefully utilized in making that change to the best of my ability. And so, I really do believe that, when we talk about Qigong and the use of Qi and Qi as a great communicator, that Qigong or Qi work is the manifestation of human potential. We have no idea what our potential is yet. And in order for us to reach our potential, we have to cultivate our mind. And that's why everyone is seeking. And we know what we need to do this, but how do we do this? And we're doing this in conjunction a lot of times with disease, and we're doing this sometimes because we're just driven. Either way, having really good teachers to be there for us and support us and nurture us and answer those good questions that we ask is so important. And I think that's one of the things that the NQA does. It provides a medium for people to find these kind of people to help them and to guide them in the ways of Qi. We are the definitive organization that does that. We are nonpartisan. and we welcome, the dialogue and the exchange. And I think that is one of the things that's going to propel us in the future. Of course, medical Qigong as well, in the interest of using Qi in healing, external Qi projection, all of those kind of different things are the future. And there's more and more people getting interested in that. The whole concept of energy healing is just breaking open right now. And so when we talk about, these three dantians and these three different ways of looking at energy, and we're going to sync them into Western research and the latest and greatest things that they're discovering about communication, we're really talking about Qi. And, as we make these parallels and draw these parallels together, I really think that, this is a great time to be a healthcare provider or Qigong instructor or an acupuncturist or an energy worker. And they really should join in with the NQA, because the NQA is going to be moving in this direction, and it's a great place to get good information, and as well as it's a wonderful community.
I love it. That's great. Thank you for the plug.
Thanks so much, Ted. I really, really appreciate it. Looking forward.
Well, thank you, Kim, for the great question.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. See you soon.
So we have another caller, Ted, who's raised their hand. Hi, John.
Hi.
Hi there.
Hi there. So wonderful to listen to all of these tremendous things you're saying. And I just had 3 basic questions. A friend of mine has told me for a while, because both of us have studied Tai Chi Chuan for many, many years, and they have experienced more energy from Qigong than Tai Chi, and I just wondered if perhaps you could explain what maybe the reason for that is question 1.
Okay. Let me do that first. And again, this is just my opinion. Okay, so it's out there like drops of water in an ocean. All right. So having practiced both, for a very long time, what I find is when I teach that the answers come to questions like this. And what I find is I'm recently doing a senior program, and most of the people were 60, probably closer to 70 and up. And I did a very simple Tai Chi Chuan form. And they had a very hard time retaining it from week to week. Now, it's a 12-week program. When I showed them Qigong, they instantly got it, remembered it, and practiced it. And so I think that speaks volumes, and because they felt a connection with it directly. With the Tai Chi, they were worried about the next movement. With the Qigong, it was repetitive. And so they could focus more on themselves. And the way I teach, I always ask people to feel what they're experiencing. Not to worry about whether they're doing it right so much. I'll come around and I'll help you that way if you're really, really off base. But to gain an experience, because people remember the experience. And so I think that's why people can relax into the Qigong faster, and perhaps that's why they can feel the energy, because it's only as much as you can relax into it and as much as you can focus on what am I feeling when I do this. And I think that's the reason.
Well, thank you. That's excellent. I find when I do Tai Chi, if I imagine, as I think Chen Menqing, some people would call his Tai Chi, swimming on land, and when I imagine that I'm in water and feel the viscosity, the resistance of the water, and also its yielding, that I find I get more energy from the Tai Chi when I have that element that is part of the form.
Right. And that, it is where the mind goes. That's the most important thing. So for the student, it's how their mind can get there. And so I think that's the most important thing. So different people are going to need different things.
Right.
I mean, that's probably why there's about 8,000 different styles of Qigong. Okay? As my grandmother used to say, there's a patch for every pair of pants. It's that old wisdom. You know what I mean? So you got 8,000 different varieties. Pick one.
Right. Well, thank you. If I may ask the other quick 2 questions.
Just before you do, John, I'll just let people know that if you want to speak, if you want to join this conversation, press *6. Okay, John, go ahead.
I just wondered on the NDE that you had, if you had any insights into the afterlife or reincarnation.
Ask that again, please. I'm sorry.
If during the near-death experience, the two of them that you had, if you had any insights or experiences into the afterlife or reincarnation.
Neither.
Okay.
What I gathered was a clarity that has carried through in a very different way. And I will say this, it is very hard to understand human beings. You know, when I look at some of the things that we decide to do, it always sets me back sometimes. And yet I see such altruism and compassion at the same time. And it truly is yin-yang. And so with a mind that always looks in a way of linkage and in a way that always looks in a form, or try to look in a form of non-judgment, sometimes, you know, we have to look at things in order to make decisions. I'm not talking about discernment, I'm talking about judgment. And when you learn to have more of a peaceful mind, you move away from such quick judgments of things, of people, of events, and so forth. And that's the clarity that I had. And now the difficult part is trying to live like that and to not get trapped into this is the absolute way that it has to be. And this is the only way that I will accept this paradigm or this person or this situation. And to always see that there's always options. And, you know, so when I go and when my practice is basically now becoming closer to the earth, becoming closer to the energy of the world. And, you know, it really, it's like all I ever needed to know, and people always ask me about God, and that's because that's the word that they use, and it's like all I ever had to know about God was taught to me through its creatures, through all of its creatures, and you know, the plants, the animals, the microbiome, everything. And I see creation in those things. And that's the nature of energy. It is to create. And so whether you're looking at the universe, the multiverse, or the little micro-universe within inside of us, it's always about creation. And the mind is going to choose what it's going to create. So, you know, when people are going through dark times, I always think about, well, in darkness, potential for creation is unlimited. So, you know, when you start to think this way, it's a little bit different of thinking, but it allows you to move through life and basically not get the attachments and the desires so much. Does that help?
Oh, that helps tremendously, really tremendously. Thank you. And just
thank you for your question, John. We've got another person who's been waiting,
okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and thank you so much for bringing in what you brought in. Dan.
Yes, hello.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for this wonderful topic. I'm really excited to hear about this. I've been following the whole research thing with the gut microbiome for years and years, and it just gets more and more interesting and exciting. I felt that there was a connection, but I'm still struggling a little bit to see, you know, much of this research has not brought in any, at least to what I'm aware of, the idea of energy medicine or qi or those kind of things. So can you talk a little bit more about the connection or how Qigong and Tai Chi or energy, you know, besides the communication, and have you researched or have theories on how that works? What might be happening?
I do, and you know, it's interesting because I'll use something very, as I said, when I'm postulating these things, I look to nature to give me the answers. That's a Taoist way. And so you probably know this, but when honeybees go near a flower, how do they know which one has nectar and pollen in it? Well, as it turns out, what science has discovered is there is an electromagnetic field, positive and negative, that tells them whether or not there's nectar inside that honey, inside that flower or bulb or whatever, or not. And they know through an electromagnetic field, through a form of communication electromagnetically, that in fact that flower has nectar, and that another honeybee has not gone in there beforehand. This electromagnetic communication and this type of resonance, or this biofilm, is exactly what the gut is doing. Now, when you practice and study Qigong, and especially medical Qigong, you learn how to tune in to these electromagnetic fields that are in your lower dantian and in the enteric nervous system. And you also learn how to keep them happy. And you also learn how to have a biofeedback system through your body. This is the whole idea of self-cultivation that was preached to most Chinese health practitioners prior to TCM and what they call classical Chinese medicine. They believe that you need to cultivate yourself first and then begin to work on others. So it's kind of like physician heal thyself kind of thing. And so it is through these electrical, biomagnetic, and and I have some other theories on this that actually goes into the biophotonic communication that we're starting to discover and work on as well. These things that are processing faster than the speed of light, actually, which I don't want to get into all that because that goes into all this theory and stuff, but when you start to look at this, there's other types of communication systems in the body that the body uses, and some are very subtle and some are very dynamic. And so we're going to be talking a little bit about those communication systems because we're finding out that nature uses those exact same kind of communication systems. They just recently found out that dogs can see electromagnetic fields, and they respond to them. So there's a lot of creatures that are using this kind of, if you want to call it, technology, and I do believe that we use it as well, but perhaps in a less of an aware state. And I do believe that the essence in the practical world of studying and practicing Qigong is to become a higher awareness of these very things. Does that help?
Excellent. That really gets me interested and excited, and it ties in with the little that I know about Qigong, and it's just it's very exciting. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah. And I didn't see your website. Should we just Google or?
Kim posted it on Facebook. Dan, are you a Facebooker?
I'm not on Facebook. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and repeat it, Ted.
You can just go the main website. There's quite a few different ones that do different things, but it's www.inner-strength.com.
Thank you for coming and speaking, Dan. I appreciated hearing from you. I'm going to just take a moment. We do have another person, but I'm going to have to hold tight for just a moment because I want to take just a little moment to talk about the NQA and the community that we are and what we do in the world, especially for those of you who are on the call tonight who are new to the organization. The NQA, the National Qigong Association, is a really great resource for people who are interested in Qigong. And we've got a lot of different branches of activity. QiTalks is just one of them. If you've been on our email list, you've probably been receiving our cool new series called QiTips that introduces different research articles, other information about the healing aspects of Qigong. And I know that personally, I'm starting a new level of online live streaming video training in my own work, and so I'm looking to getting more versed in that technology with an eye to launching an in-depth virtual training for you, for our NQA community, so that we can take QiTalks and the type of expertise that Ted and others have to a whole new level, so that instead of having a very short conversation about something that we could just really drill down and really grow with, to be able to do that over time, say over a 6 or 8 week class series or something like that. So that's just something to look forward to, that the NQA is going to be presenting to the public and to especially for our membership at a great discount. The NQA is basically a community of professional practitioner and people who just like to do Qigong, and includes among us a very wide range of practices, lineages, belief systems, levels of experience. But what is sort of common here in this community that I think, some of those of you who were on before we actually officially started the call were talking about, working in the committees for the NQA, is that there's a way that it's a culture that's based on respect and diversity. We also don't endorse any one specific way as being the way. There's a lot, as Ted said, over 8,000 exercises that get called Qigong. So we're not trying to define what is the way, but what we do have in common across this diverse spectrum is a love for working with energy practices and a very deep desire to share these profoundly healing arts with as many people as possible. So whether you're a long-term practitioner yourself, or you're a professional, or you're just interested in learning more about energy and how it works, or you're somewhere else on that spectrum, I'd like to invite you to consider becoming a member of our organization if you're not already one. It's a great way to become part of a growing movement of people who are advocates for taking charge of our own health and well-being. It's a great way to gain access to leading-edge information and resources in the same kind of way that Ted is a leader in this, to have unlimited access to this call as well as all the past and future QiTalks through an archive of recordings that's reserved on our members-only page of the NQA site. So you get to hear from an impressive list of Qi thought leaders. If you join the NQA as a member, you can listen to these different calls in your own timing. And I always like to review a little bit. I mean, I realize that this is we're in I think it's our third year now, and the calls have had this huge range of what I think of as Qi visionaries, leading thinkers, including recently Eric Imbody talking about honoring our elders, Qigong for seniors, Linda Larkey on the latest scientific research on the benefits of Qigong, Ellie Drew on Qigong for psychic development, Chris Bugian on Qigong for vets and other survivors of PTSD, Carrie Sherman on Qigong for kids, Francesco Garapoli on Qigong and epigenetics, Daisy Lee on Qigong for women. I mean, it goes on and on. So you get the idea. It's a really great archive that we have of recordings, and it's full of rich information that I think you'll relish. So if you're a member, don't forget to use it, right? It's there for you, so please use it and enjoy it. If you're currently a professional member of the NQA or you want to join on that level, I want to be sure you know that you're eligible yourself to become a QiTalks presenter. And I really would like, for those of you that teach or who are medical practitioners, that if you have a message to share, if you have some discoveries that you're making, if you have something that you feel like you want people to know, I really want to encourage you to do this, because it's a great way to broaden your influence, to let more people know about what you're doing. You're spreading the Qi this way, and it's a wonderful way to connect with like-minded individuals and also to become, for your voice to be heard. So all you need to do is drop me a line. You do need to be a member, a professional member, in order to present. But if you are, drop me a line at QiTalks, QiTalks @nqa.org. And finally, just so you know, as a general member, whatever level you happen to be on, you get a very healthy discount for our annual conference, which is happening this year, July 29th to the 31st. So these conferences get better every year. This year we're introducing this new professional track with Ted, which will be able to go through some in-depth. He said, he's got 6 months of material, and yet he's really being able to hone into some things that are really going to broaden you over the 3 days of the conference. It's a great place to network and to play and grow the Qi field. And whether you want to go on the professional track with Ted, there's a lot of other options of people that you can work with, to study with, can communicate with, connect with. So in my opinion, the discount that you get to the conference as a member is already worth the cost of the membership, which is not very high. So whether you're a long-term practitioner or brand new, we'd love to welcome you to our community. And here's the offer that I get to make, especially for QiTalks listeners. There are 3 levels of membership: general, practitioner, and professional. And ordinarily the annual fee for a general member is $45. Practitioners are $100, and professional membership is $150. But to thank you for joining us this evening, we'd like to offer you a special discount on the membership price. So no matter what member level you choose, whether you're a new member or a renewing member, you can deduct $10 off of any level, general, practitioner, professional. This offer is only good for the next 24 hours, so that's until tomorrow, May 13th at 9:30 Eastern. And you can receive that discount if you email us at info@nqa.org or call our office at 888-815-1893. And if you didn't get that number, you can find us on the website nqa.org. So when you call in or write in, be sure to not only give your name as a participant on the call, but the phone number that you called into this conference call from, so that we can verify that you are actually here and then are therefore eligible for this offer. So I think we're coming to the end, but Ted, I want to ask, do you have any concluding remarks? I know we have Ray here who had a question. Ray, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. If you have something that you can ask super fast before we have some concluding remarks from Ted, I'd love to just hear your voice.
Thank you. Yes, something super fast. Really has to do with strengthening the gut flora, because that seems to be the weak link. And I wanted to get your input about probiotics. I mean, this is something that's been pretty prevalent in Ayurveda, that they work on that, and just wanted to get your input about, using that in conjunction with Qigong to strengthen that gut flora.
Well,
Thanks,
the essence of postnatal Qi is two concepts, breath and then food and drink. And this is how you build postnatal Qi. So we'll be covering also some specific Qigong, more medical Qigong exercises to strengthen the microbiome. We're also going to be talking about food as medicine in a way that actually creates a natural probiotic in the right ratios. So we're going to be talking about both of those things. But yes, the word probiotic has gotten a lot of press, and I'm going to go into the differences between supplementation as well as using food as medicine.
Thank you.
Well, that's a wonderful teaser. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ray, for bringing in the question. And so did you have any last remarks that you wanted to make in general, Ted?
Well, this is going to be a huge undertaking to try to explain this just in a couple days, and I do hope people come out and engage in this kind of dialogue, because I really do believe that this is going to be the 21st century and the 22nd century, and to be a part of this cutting edge kind of way of thinking is going to put you in the right frame of mind as we move into the future.
Beautiful. I agree. Well, so I'd like to thank you, Ted, and thank everyone for joining us for this round of QiTalks, and I hope that you're going to join us in months to come. We meet every second Thursday of the month, and next month in June, I'm going to be hosting Lee Holden, who's going to be our keynote speaker at this year's conference, and Lee's going to be talking about what he calls the 5 paths to inner power based on the 5 elements. He says that the 5 paths to inner power give us tools and resources to connect to our inner potential. And for those of you who are not familiar with Lee's work, he says he first discovered the healing power of Qigong and Tai Chi after experiencing injuries that nearly sidelined his varsity soccer career at the University of California. Impressed at how these ancient practices healed his body and allowed him to return to his playing, he made that study a priority and is now an internationally known instructor in meditation, Tai Chi, and Qigong, as well as licensed acupuncturist, herbalist, and author. He has a very popular library of Qigong DVDs, and they're regularly featured on American public television, and he's aired on over 105 PBS stations throughout the U.S. and Canada. He's also a stress management consultant to top Silicon Valley corporations like Apple, 3Com, and Cisco, and has been on the on-set wellness consultant for several Hollywood film productions. So I'm definitely going to have to brush up on my gossip columns. So it's going to be fun to talk to Lee next time. I look forward to hearing from you all again. Please join us for this next discussion with another visionary teacher. You can always contact me again at QiTalks at nqa.org. Until we meet again, be well and let the Qi flow. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.